Hi, I'm Jason English. I'm a principal analyst here at Intellyx, and I'm here at Zoho Day 26, where we're exploring all the different solutions that Zoho has for the enterprise audience, as well as end users and partners. And it's been a very interesting conference so far, but I'm here with Tejas Gadhia. He's the AI and development evangelist for Zoho. So, Tejas, what does your new role entail? I know executives at Zoho kind of take a round robin approach or a zone defense approach, where you're constantly kind of shifting into what area you cover. So, why have you moved to this new role, and what does it entail?
Uh, Good question of what it entails. I think things are changing so fast; it's hard to tell what's actually going to be like permanent. So every week or month, it seems like a different kind of a thing. I think the main thing is really just around like embracing what's new, finding new solutions, and figuring out like ways to improve not just internal processes but also for customers, giving them I think a little bit more what I believe to be like more practical, probably like a grounded, simple, maybe strategies, best practices, future considerations around like a lot of tools that they're adopting nowadays. I kind of feel like we're in an age of it's almost like back in let's say 2012, 2013 when like Uber first came out or delivery apps first came out. You know, everyone was addicted. You could get Ubers for like $4 or $5 and you felt great. And now like an Uber is more expensive than a taxi. And
Yeah.
like inevitably a lot of these tools right now they're just getting the users, a lot of subsidized things. So it's great to experiment and take advantage of essentially subsidized software or technology of any kind. But at the same time, most people, uh, especially our customers, are very like value oriented. So they want to make sure that even though if you adopt these tools, if you become, I don't want to say addicted, but kind of close to it, and you like become a dependent on it, then are you protecting your own financial side of things, your risk side of things, your privacy side of things, your compliance side of things? And right now, I think we're kind of seeing an explosion of experiment. But what is the next phase of the when the pricing models start changing, when the efficiency starts changing, when security starts becoming an issue bigger and bigger, privacy concerns start popping up? Those are like problems that'll pop up next year in the next 5 years that I think are kind of on the back burner because everyone's like try and do everything you can, automate whatever, connect it all, and do it all. But then someone with a sane mind will probably step in and be like, all right, we got to figure out a long term strategy here.
Yeah. I noticed that you were one of the first companies to even suggest the idea of specialized language models or small language models as an alternative to LLMs, which everybody is trying to race toward the best, strongest, largest LLM model, and it's just not going to be sustainable in the long run.
Hmm.
So, how did you come to that conclusion that you could orient the company toward these more specialized models, and how do you sort of evangelize that practice within your customer base?
Yeah, I think a lot of evangelizing within the customer base is kind of almost like invisible AI, which is what people really want. It's not so much about talking to something or triggering a chat or having to like think about using it. It's the stuff that happens magically in the back end that may or may not be appreciated, but is taken advantage of on a daily basis. Even if it's crazy things like spam detection or performance monitoring or those aren't like the coolest things that people feel, but it's things that they take advantage of and essentially yeah, don't appreciate on a day-to-day basis, but are all powered by a lot of intelligence models that have been doing for a very long time. And I think the issue around like the large models is, I think the analogy is generally like, I don't know if it's relatable or not, but it's kind of like you don't take like a Ferrari to go check your mail.
Yeah.
I don't have a Ferrari, but I mean, I assume if I did, I probably wouldn't go to check well, the mail box might be far if I had a Ferrari, but that's a different story. It's kind of like you got to use the right tool for the right job. And right now, it's like maybe the better example is like you have the world's smartest human trained on the world's data, and you're going to ask them, how long do I pop my popcorn for? That's like not what you should be using that for. That's like expensive to hire a consultant that knows everything about everything, and you're going to ask them a very simple question. You got to find the right popcorn expert or somebody who's trained in that like domain who has that knowledge. And what's happening right now in the market is with these generalized models, they have a lot of broad knowledge, but then what is everyone doing today? They're building skills and agents, and those are just really prompt wrappers that establish a lot of context. That context is all manually controlled because you have to define that context because no vendor is giving you that context being exposed. Our angle is more that context should be ambient across the board. When you're using multiple Zoho products, your CRM, your help desk, your email, HR, finance, whatever it is, all those things, context is intelligently there automatically. Your context layer is not manually defined now, it's ambient. Context could be like, the basic stuff like records, maybe like customer information, fields, and data. That's all like, table stakes, I would say, through like API calls and programmatic access. But the real context comes from like, I would say like organizational culture, organizational processes that are not really documented that well. Like, let's say we're planning this interview. Maybe we're going back and forth on chat, a couple of emails here and there, but it's not like the most structured way. Each situation will be very different. So how do you figure out all the activities that somebody's doing? How do they interact with each other? Are they talking like casual or not casual? So when I say like, if me and uh, someone at the office in Austin is talking, it might be way more casual. Talking to somebody from a different office that's does something different that I don't talk to that much, maybe the context is a little bit different. So would I want to define that every time? Hey, I don't know this person that well. They're from a different office in a different region. So word it something this way or present something this way. No, that should be all ambient, automatic. I don't want to sit there and write rules for my organization because I'm never going to be able to hard code every aspect that is almost undefinable, which is kind of the entire value of the unified context layer that we kind of been talking about.
Yeah. Another interesting aspect is since you have a history of we're here at the 30th anniversary of Zoho, which is kind of wild to think about where you started out. And you have this huge suite of automation tools that have been very productive for customers, as well as low-code tools and other abilities to build applications, on top of this substrate of the data that you have. But where should people start thinking about drawing a line between where should you use AI and does good old automation still have a big place in this discussion? And how do you help people make that distinction?
That's a good question, actually. I would say like the age of automation is not over. It's not like workflows from apps and stuff are not going to be going away. You still need basic automations. You don't need AI for that stuff. Maybe you want to add like a AI layer for some added logic on top, but to actually execute the stuff, you don't need to again burn like a expensive model to be able to execute an email send. It's do some logic, figure out how to frame it, and then the actual execution layer happens through like a normal workflow engine. So I don't think it'll cannibalize them. I think if anything, our general sense, especially in the developer ecosystem or even in the SaaS world, everyone thinks everyone's going to vibe code everything. That's kind of maybe an extension of workflows as a whole. And it's kind of like, well, it's probably not going to happen. What's actually going to happen is you're just going to broaden the pie of people who feel like they can now build. It was kind of like low code back in the day gave like citizen developers, a taste of being able to create something that was seemingly meaningful. And once you start low coding and you're dragging and dropping, maybe writing a few small scripts, you go deeper in the weeds and you start learning about a little bit of HTML, a little bit of JavaScript. It's not like those languages went away and we abstracted everything away. We basically just made it easier to interact with. So today, you might be in a chat interface or even in like a terminal with some of these coding tools. We'll have abstraction layers above that make it easier. So it'll be drag and drop and visual and it'll make it more approachable. So the pie of builders and I would say just creators, builders, whatever you call it, will only grow. And actually, it'll be a lot more I would say like the creative types rather than the process types, because those are the ones with the ideas who can articulate things and have like really like a good, creative out of the box thinking kind of a mind. But if you're very like process oriented and you're just following like a script every time, those are the ones that could probably be a little bit more automated away. You're not going to provide a lot of new ideas. It's kind of like the troublemakers, the creatives, the ones who are like, man, it would be cool if this happened. That's the one who will, whether you know how to do it today or not, you know that it's possible. And with that creative idea, you go down a rabbit hole and you start building crazy cool things that started maybe pet projects and then start making big impacts in your organization.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about how sophisticated you've seen development get in your customer base, because we have a lot of companies that really did start out with just one person probably just building process-oriented tools in some low-code apps, and now they might have 10 or 100 or 1,000 people soon.
Yeah.
And so you have these bigger companies, and so do you see a broader range of skill sets that not just those citizen developers, but some actual developers interfacing with your team, and how is that going?
Yeah, I'd say the number one skill set probably in life is being able to think and plan properly. Like
Yeah.
that's the number one issue. So even
Yep.
with the low code world, you know, we made it easy to build tools, and a lot of people did the same thing. Doesn't mean people build good tools. Doesn't mean they have good data models. Doesn't mean they've thought through all the processes and the nuances and the quirks and the exceptions and whatever things down the line. Right now, it's almost even worse because at least in a low code platform, any software platform, you have some guardrails, some bounds. You can't go too crazy. Nowadays, if you're building completely, just throwing it out there and one shotting some kind of vibe coded app, that thing's got problems you don't even know about,
Right.
and you don't even know how to fix them because you don't even know what you don't know. At least like the SaaS products out there, the guardrails keep it maintained to make sure you have structure, provide advice. So those guardrails and tooling and like best practices will get built into more of these agentic kind of building opportunities. But for now, it does require some level of what's it, caution, or probably just
Yeah.
a responsibility. Probably is a better way to word it.
Yeah. I mean, I think just like in the opening session, we were talking. There was a lot of talk about, and this has been going on in the marketplace right now. Talk about how AI is going to replace SaaS or something like that. When when in reality, it really seems like just having this foundation of SaaS becomes like a better tool for AIs to use in building workflow and as far as having one source of truth for what they're doing as opposed to grabbing random things out there that are unauthorized. And so, what's kind of your perspective on that when people, I guess they could be critics or naysayers who talk about, SaaS going away because of AI. I'm not seeing it, but what's your perspective?
I mean, I think there's probably like a wide spectrum. It's hard to make like that kind of that blanket statement. On one end, for like the actual like I would say the vibe code hype, I do think there is a threat for SaaS in a sense that you will have an explosion of just products in the market for people to choose from. And right now, let's say you're like a mom and pop candy store with a retail front, right? Your choice for like managing your customers might be a full-blown CRM, Zoho CRM, another competitor, whatever it is, right? But that's like not made for your flower shop or your candy shop or whatever you have, right? So you go down the vertical path, which we've seen in the market for quite some time. Will that vertical solution do exactly what you want it to do? Probably not, because it's usually customized for that vertical, but maybe not for your specific use cases. And so then you'll have an explosion of these super, super niche products that have probably a small addressable market, but are now being able to be served extremely well. You probably have a lot of people taking advantage of those people, so I think there'll be some negative consequences as well. But you would have a specialized CRM for maybe like candy shop owners in Texas. Maybe the total addressable market of candy shop owners is like 1,000. But if I can get 500 of them customers on board, that's a pretty successful business for like a one-person shop. And so everyone thinks about this big addressable market and billion-dollar thing. You can live very good by having a very niche focus that you didn't think was a sustainable, I would say, like a market or even like a business idea, and they'll be served extremely well. They'll be taken care of. Someone with deep knowledge of candy making, I guess, or whatever that bad example I used was. You'll get like a lot of expertise there. I think you'll get a lot of people taking advantage of that. So you'll have like, to frame it back, you'll have like these super niche specialized ones that'll provide a lot of value for very small customers because it'll be very niche, very simple, and what they need. Then you take a step up and it's like, all right, we're going to make a new help desk on AI. We're going to make a new CRM or new HR or whatever it is. That's a little bit more risky because now it becomes like more of a mission critical core system information. Am I really trusting that? I think one thing that people kind of discredit, and you kind of mentioned earlier with the 30 years mark, is there's a trust involved when you choose any kind of thing you buy. It doesn't matter if it's clothes, the car, the software, whatever it is. You're buying not just today's product, but does this company have a history of innovation, a history of serving their customers well, a history of doing the right thing, a history of delivering good value, bringing prices down, offering more features, whatever it is. Like everyone has a trend of kind of their perception, and that trend or like that character of the organization or person builder, whatever you're buying from, that's established over a lot of time. Like you can't like fake that, you can't do it. So when you have a lot of up and comers, how do you build credibility? How do you know that this person's going to support this application that they vibe coded 5 years down the line? How do you know that it's going to be interoperable? How do you know it's going to have APIs? And how do you know it's going to be extendable? Probably not. So like you have to factor all those risks in for that, like the SaaS killer kind of like a fear mongering, I guess. And then upmarket, I would say, and for more like mature companies, even just mid to larger organizations, we'll have probably a decent amount of like, I would say like top down automations and integrations, central IT teams, and then we'll probably be trying to deliver like productivity and agents and stuff. I think that'll be the first step. But really where this all kind of goes is truly hyper-personalized kind of experiences. How I work, how you work is very different. And so even though we both use the same software and the same CRM, let's use that as an example. What I need to see is very different than what you need to see, and why should I see the same thing as you? So we'll have like maybe one core system of record and maybe 5,000 apps for 5,000 employees that all do exactly what that employee wants. Maybe there's some mandates from central IT or whatever, but if I need to just see last 5 emails, a few customers I got to follow up with, and a couple of tasks, why should I not just have my own thing from that? I have access to the data, obviously, so I can now develop an interface that makes me more productive for me. So you'll have a lot of personal productivity, I think, and you're not going to be bound by like what the vendor offers. Hopefully the vendor is extensible enough, and I think that's when people feel like I've got something for me, which kind of goes back to that niche example of the candy store or whatever. It's made for me, and I'm making it for me. I know how I work. I refine my process. Just like you have like folders and email, that's made for you. It's not mandated from the organization level of like how I organize my email. I trust it on you. Same way, if I want to have automations in my email, that's on me. It's not the organization who's pushing that down my throat. However, you leverage folders and automations in email, that'll be your own personal productivity gains. And that's on you to kind of find the best way that works for you. So yeah, long story short, hyper-personalization for a lot of people, a lot of value for like very micro businesses, I think, from well-intentioned developers, and a lot of risk for up-and-comers that may not have the longevity and the trust kind of built up. And not to say that they're not trustworthy, just that it takes time to build up that trust. And so you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket without knowing what the long-term future is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like because you have so much detailed expertise for each at these very low levels, you have that becomes the context for the AI itself to act upon.
Yeah.
And so like we talk about AI all the time with other companies in a general sense, like, okay, instead of having an API gateway to talk to, we're going to put an MCP server up there now, and that's going to replace that, and then it's just going to talk to that, and then it'll magically sort of know what it's supposed to do next, or something like that.
That's what they say.
So, I mean, your approach is very different because you are this system of record, and you have so much rich data for each particular user, even down to the customer level. Um, how do you recommend developers approach this if they're really trying to get into the space, prove some value quick, and do something that's meaningful for their companies? What do you recommend when you talk to them?
Yeah, I usually tell people initially you kind of want to do something that feels like it has like big org impact. You want to build this agent that's going to do tickets for you, or this like SDR thing that's going to follow up with customers, and you think it's like some major thing. Instead, scale it back. All these like super ambitious projects. I think I saw something. I think it was like an MIT study, if I'm not mistaken. It's something like 95% of AI projects have failed in the last year,
Yeah.
and it's like crazy. And so the reason is because like usually the larger the company, the more ambitious in scope, and it's like, oh, we're going to automate a bunch of stuff. Start super small. Find something like very basic, maybe like automatically routing tickets. It's not. It goes back to like it's not the coolest thing, but it probably saves a lot of headache. Or maybe like some sort of summarization thing that's like truly contextual to you, and not like just taking what the vendor gave you and slapping it on there.
Yeah.
Like as a vendor ourselves, we have to offer out of the box AI functionalities. So let's say we have something that like summarize notes, for example, in like various products. Now, summarizing notes is like essentially what we're doing is we're taking the content of the note, wrapping it in a little bit of a prompt, and then sending it off to the LLM, do the math, come back and give me the summary. But what I need to see in that note summary, what you need to see, what the salesperson, what the engineer, what the PM, what the CEO, they all need to see different content from that summary. So you actually need different prompts for each person based on their universal context. What does this person do when they look at the record? Am I looking at really like, oh, customer didn't sign a PO. I don't care if they sign a PO. That's not relevant to my summary whatsoever. I want to know like, where they're from, what they do, what issues they had, and like, various aspects. That's my personal summary. So like all these out of the box features are really just going to be table stakes. It's a nice way to get your foot wet, but you're not really going to increase productivity if you use the same generalized tool everybody has. So the out-of-the-box features that any software vendor offers, ourselves included, they're there to get your feet wet and your creativity going. But to really take it to the next level is really about custom extensibility of any kind. You got to wrap it in like your own context, your own explanations, your own company philosophies or whatever it is your role. It goes back to like hyper personalization of it. Like everything will be very much not just generic AI feature gives me a summary, does an automatic routing. It has to be, well, this is how we work, and we need to add our layer of context on there. And you can manually define it right now, or it can be ambiently defined for you based on your historical work as well.
Yeah. I guess for a final thing, because I'm always really interested in how Zoho does development work itself, and so inside your own organization, you have thousands of, probably more than, was it 5,000 developers, or is it more like 50 now? I don't even know.
But yeah, probably at least 10. It's got to be like up to 12, 13,
so,
maybe.
I mean,
Yeah, somewhere up there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's thousands of developers in the company, and so like ideas are filtering in from all over the place. And so how do you how do you sort of wrangle so much innovation into a strategy that you can execute on like one step at a time? Because a lot of companies who are, especially as you move into larger markets, they're dealing with this issue themselves, and now they have to deal with the issue of AI, and a lot of people who are eager to jump in, do something with it. So how does your approach to that differ from, is it unique to Zoho itself? I'm just curious.
I don't think it might not be unique to us. I would say like our approach is generally like, one, like most of our product teams are very like decentralized, and decision making happens at the individual level. There's centralized stuff, but like we try to give experimentation and options to everybody to do what they want. So different teams will embrace, or maybe not embrace, or whatever it is, use it for different things. Some will focus on maybe prototyping. Some might focus on testing. Some might focus on customer service and customer facing opportunities, whatever it is. But so we don't really have like a top down mandate. I feel like on one hand it's good to have a centralized like a strategy, but sometimes that centralized strategy will kind of box you in and prevent the creativity that you might want. So for us, it's kind of free for all right now. I mean, I think that's kind of general sense for most people. Free for all in the sense of obviously don't connect things that you're not supposed to connect to, and like make sure it's secure through like our own governance structure. But you have to experiment and find something that works for you and your team. And it goes back to that context thing again. Like if central IT comes and drops something down that's going to be uniformly mandated, chances are it's not going to work for like whatever subgroup or some niche kind of experiences you generally have within a developer product team or a sub team within there, a module team or a testing team or whatever it is. And so it should happen at the closer to the problem rather than like a big issue. But sharing the information is the most important thing. So like when one team learns that, hey, actually like this tweak helps our productivity, you got to share that stuff and build like, I think like an unofficial or official, I guess, center of excellence kind of a term. I don't really like that term. It feels very corporate-y, but just a group of passionate people like share information, learn from each other, get better. Because otherwise, there'll be a lot of repetition. If I'm making an agent that manages my email and you go make it from scratch, you're gonna hit a lot of roadblocks, and maybe you'll learn along the way. Hopefully, I mean, everybody will learn along the way. But you also shouldn't reinvent the wheel if something's already been built. So you need to have like internal repositories and shared information. And that'll increase the productivity of everybody to just learn and build more. And nowadays, these tools are like, you can get the AI somewhere. You can have like videos generated that'll like make it interesting. When someone makes an agent, it's like, I don't want to read the code. I want someone just make me a short overview video, and I'll probably be more interested in it at that point. So I think maybe I wouldn't say the strategy is no strategy, but the strategy is generally decentralization, so everybody can experiment without major roadblocks. But you still want an overarching theme of like leverage the tools that are available to you. And it'll help increase your productivity for your own sanity. Same way, like, people used to write on paper, then they got a computer. And when you get the computer, you can't like, the expectations go up because you now have a tool at your hand that you can write faster than by hand. So like, and if you don't use the computer and you're writing by hand, you can't say, oh, I'm writing by hand, so like my output's gonna be lower. It's like, no, the technology is given to you. It's there. It's for you to embrace and then make yourself better and like, get ahead of the pack. So you can fight it, but it's kind of like very obvious where things are going. And it's not necessarily about being an early adopter. It's more about anything that can help productivity. We should always be curious about whatever kind of it is, whether it's planning, whether it's documentation, whether it's prototyping, whether it's meetings, whatever it is. Those are all, if a new something comes in that helps us be more productive, we should always evaluate if it's something that works for us and try to embrace it or adapt it to kind of how we do things. I don't know if that's really the answer to your question, but a long ramble of various strategies, and that's kind of the good thing about us. We can kind of do whatever we want to in different areas and see what works.
Yeah, it's definitely a different culture. But then again, the idea of just knowledge sharing and having a knowledge base that advances through this process is that's a very common theme, and one of the things that really works well with AI. It's really good at documentation and knowledge sharing.
Yeah,
and promoting. If you set it up right, it could help promote where you're trying to go as opposed to just what you've done so far.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I think I've probably got as much as I can get. We could go on forever, but Tejas, this has been a very productive talk, and I really enjoy hearing about what you're seeing in your line of work and how much Zoho has really embraced AI and turned it into a central part of the strategy without losing their roots and real productivity and value.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to like get caught up in the hype too, and sometimes you got to just pause, see where things are kind of going, see where the puck is going or whatever the analogy is, and kind of be a little bit more patient. And I think that's a kind of like a really good thing that like Sridhar and everybody kind of like instills in everybody from the beginning, that like you kind of got to be paused, and sometimes you get a little FOMO or you feel like you're behind or whatever it is, but you kind of take a breather, see where things are going, don't just rush in and like try to jump. I think I want to say like last year, year before. I want to say Klarna, the buy now pay later app.
Yeah.
They had like made some post about like I don't call them out, I guess, but whatever. It was public. They were like getting rid of all their support team, and they're going to like have bots and agents running everything. So they like laid off a bunch of people, and then they're like, oh, this is not working. Then they hired people back. And it's like, all right, this is not that's like you jumped too far, and then you didn't like think strategically of not really replacing people, but it should be like the superpower, not the replacement for people. That's like the wrong way of looking about it. You want to empower the employees and make sure you're not like really replacing them. That's definitely a big thing, I think.
Well, yeah. They're not a customer anyway.
Oh, yeah, well.
Just doing payday loans for online purchases is not what I call it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Also, next year maybe it's I'll just send like a little robot here with my voice and my context, and it'll just do the interview for me. So
exactly, we'll be personified in our AI avatars.
But actually, yeah, that the robot thing's gonna be a last little thing I'll say. I think there's a big thing of like let's say if I take like help desk automation or sales automation, right? So you have this like agent and an LLM basically drafting these outreaches and emails, right? And you think you're like getting one over somebody. And there's nothing that grinds my gears more than when someone sends me like an email that is very obvious copy pasted from an LLM. Because it's like, you don't respect me enough to read my stuff, and like you lose that human touch. Because what am I going to do? I'm going to build an LLM that's going to answer my emails for me. So now you got this little LLM talking to this little LLM. No human in the loop, and you have to have that human touch for everything. And I think the race for automation and like the AI thing, it's still grounded in like human connection, human relationships. That's how sales is done. That's how good customer support is done. That's how product teams learn from customers. You can't just have like a agent go and send an email and that agent comes back. Like that's not gonna work out very well for you. So some people go far down that route, but I think for history, it's basically like, the human connection is what perseveres, and that's going to be the X factor going forward. So when you have option between human support or human sales or human experiences versus like a robot, a lot of people will choose the human, and it might even be a premium in the future, but that's going to be what people still want. No matter how much technology you get, nothing beats the humans.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Let's just try to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks, Tejas. This has been super interesting. I'm Jason English here reporting from Zoho Day for Intellyx. Thanks so much.
You can even keep your data privately. Zoho. You can keep your books and track expenses.